Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing well and welcome to another video. In the last video I talked about kind of my extreme youth and when I was first introduced to lifting weights at all. In this one I kind of want to dive more into the high school time and maybe a little bit of college time, but maybe just mainly just the high school time. But my high school career started out, I was doing baseball, basketball my freshman year. Did not like the basketball team because I did not get to play, and nothing's worse than having to do all of the practices and all of the running and then not really getting to play in games. And it was really cold in the gym when you don't play basketball. It's really cold when you're sitting there the whole game. So anytime I got in, I was like freezing cold, and like you're coming off the bench literally cold. So it was very difficult whenever I did go in to like be ready to go, and you're playing very minimal amounts of time. So it's hard you don't get any rhythm or any sort of, like, there's just so much pressure when you go in because you're only in there for a couple minutes. So it sucked. I hated it. I love basketball still, but I hated that I didn't get any opportunities really to play for whatever reason. Maybe I just wasn't good enough, and I'm just delusional. But quit after my freshman year, and so my sophomore year I was still playing baseball and had the whole winter to train. So I went from being, when I got my driver's permit, my learner's permit, I was 5'9", like 135, around there, maybe 130. I forget what I put on there, but I definitely exaggerated a couple pounds if I did. So between 130 and 135. And then by the end of that winter, I probably gained like 20 pounds. I gained a lot because that was my first winter really ever of doing a dedicated block of training without basketball. I don't think I did basketball at all that year, but I still, did basketball sometimes. Like, I didn't play on a competitive team, but I still remember going to shoot around and stuff, and I liked jumping. And so I did that just to like try to touch and grab the rim, and I always wanted the dunk, and got pretty close in college, to be honest, but never quite got there to dunk a full basketball. But that's a little bit down the road. So continued to train, gained a bunch of weight, of mostly purely muscle. I was pretty yacked when I think about it. I had abs and everything like that, and I actually still kind of do, which is kind of wild because I weigh 230 now. I'm not certainly very lean relative to when I was like 200 pounds in kind of college, but definitely am rather surprised that I don't look like a complete blob of fat, being 30 more pounds than I was when I was like 185 when I started teaching, because I had just cut down for a powerlifting thing. So I have gained quite a bunch of weight since I started teaching. But like I said, I continued to train, and so that it ended up being more so I do baseball all year and then train for baseball in the winter and then lift on my own, and just do that consistently and just continue to get stronger. My junior year, I did a class with that Bobby Jones strength coach guy who was giving us a program and all of that stuff, and did his exercise physiology class. It was a very intense exercise class and really taught me a lot of grit, of just kind of getting through difficult work and not really, just like, I guess mental toughness is the best thing, because it wasn't like we didn't learn anything, because I learned a lot about exercise and like how to do different things. So it was a very informative class in a sense, but I think the most important thing was kind of the abstract mental things that you learn of just gritting through difficult things. One of the workouts that we did was a metal plate push. So we had a cement track that was 1/8 of a mile, was one lap, and we had to do 8 of those laps. So a full mile of pushing a 45-pound plate on the ground, of kind of like a bear crawl thing, which destroys your quads. And it's an extremely difficult thing. It's very possible. It takes like 35 minutes to do. I think it took me 35. The fastest was under 30, and then the slowest was like 45. But it takes you a very long time, and it's very difficult the entire time. Especially, I guess unless you're cheating, because there were people that would pick it up when you couldn't see you and like roll it or carry it a little bit. But I was that maniac that just followed the directions and just pushed it the whole time. So stuff like that really teaches you just kind of mental toughness and grit to get through difficult exercises. Plus, outside of that, if I would go help my dad with rental properties that he was getting at that time, I believe it was like around 2008 when he first had them, we would go and shovel gravel. I remember we had shoveled several tons of gravel after I did one of those play push workouts at school, and my dad was joking I should go tell Bobby Jones I did all that, because I was just absolutely wrecked. But it develops your mental toughness, like I said, and your work capacity for sure. and just your ability to grind through stuff. But I'd go do that stuff with my dad. Nothing that intense all the time, but usually it's pretty menial labor that needed to be done at the houses, whatever kind of manual stuff that we needed to do. But continue to train, like I said, do a lot more baseball. Then my senior year at high school, I got cut from the baseball team because I don't really know. Like, I wasn't the best player, probably, but like certainly was good enough to be on the team. Coach just kind of an asshat, but that's also my teenage angst probably talking. Maybe I was really just sucky at baseball. Shouldn't have made the team, but who knows with that. Kind of glad in hindsight, because it kind of began the path of pushing me away from baseball and doing more training, because I spent a lot of that summer still doing summer baseball, but training a lot, getting ready for college, and kind of getting into that time. I'll kind of end this video, and hopefully I don't repeat too much in the next one, but I'll kind of end this video with my first little bit of college, because it isn't really that interesting. So when I started baseball in college, we were doing baseball year-round and would have training in the winter and lifting in the winter, and being the machine that I am, I just do everything that was on the program, which a lot of it was really detrimental. It was like leg extensions on the machine, which are really rough on your knees, especially when they want you to go heavier on them. It wasn't like he was breathing down your neck, the coach, to do heavier, but being a male, you want to do what the program says and linearly progress and get stronger. So you follow the directions that are on there, and slowly worked my knee down to make it hurt. And it wasn't, I don't think, directly from leg extensions, but I would do the workouts with the baseball team, do the baseball practices, and try to do like plyometrics and explosive stuff outside of that to try to continue to develop. I just do too much essentially, and still play basketball or whatever for fun off to the side, and just beat my body into a pulp. So that was my first year, and started my sophomore year playing on the team. And my knee pain over that year, really in the spring and then in the summer, started to get worse, and it was a very unique knee pain. It wasn't like it was constant. It was very sharp and very on and off. And what I found out, it was just frayed cartilage in my knee. So when it would catch, it would hurt really, really bad. But then it would go back to it. So it'd be like a level 10 pain where I couldn't see anything or think about anything other than the pain, and then it would go back to not hurting at all. And I had like a clicking and stuff, but that was one of the reasons I quit the baseball team, because I was starting to hurt so bad. And I really just was hating the baseball team, because I just wasn't getting opportunities again to play on it, and just being at the bottom rung of the team, and just didn't like it. I got yelled at by the baseball coach once, or the pitching coach, I should say. It wasn't the head coach, because I was squatting when I shouldn't have been, because I wasn't on the program of the day. But freaking back squats. God forbid I wanted to get stronger legs in the off season. What an asinine thing for me to do, especially because I was at the bottom rung of the team. So it wasn't like I was getting opportunities to play anyway. But I remember he chewed me out that day, and that coach is an asshat. He's not at school anymore. Imagine being a morbidly obese fat guy making all of your athletes run several miles at the end of every practice for pitchers and just the other athletes on the team, but making all of us run an extreme distance for no reason. Aerobic capacity means nothing for pitching. And knowing this made it so much more difficult, because as you're learning stuff as you're growing up about anaerobic and aerobic activity and what you need to be more explosive, you learn how stupid it is for pitchers to run long distances, because it's just terrible. It's not inherently terrible for your knees, but the cost benefit is just not there, because as a pitcher or any sort of baseball player, you're not doing anything for more than 30 seconds at the most if you're running around all of the bases, maybe at the absolute most if you run slow. But you're not doing anything for using your aerobic capacity really at all. Maybe a player in the outfield, but even if you're running a very long ball down, you're not running more than 30 seconds, which is when your body switches over to aerobic capacity or starts using oxygen. So everything you do in baseball is anaerobic. But then we would have to run, he would call it 10 poles, but you have to back and forth as one. And it was a full size college baseball field. So I estimated several miles of running, because it took forever. And even then, I remember exaggerating the numbers that you complete just to get done, because it took so long. and he just wanted to leave. It was the stupidest thing. And it's just kind of stuff like that made you realize like how little they knew as coaches. Another example, I know this video is getting long, but I don't really want to redo this one, so I'll continue just hammering how stupid these college coaches was. So one, we're doing leg extensions, which is just a terrible leg development exercise, especially for like going heavy. If you're doing it light, it's not really that big of a deal, but going heavy is just strenuous on your knees and pointless when you can be doing things like squats. We didn't do deadlifts from what I remember. Maybe we did a little bit, but there wasn't any sort of emphasis on any sort of power movements like power cleans or snatches or anything like that. It's all just regular strength movements and some plyometrics and some sprints. So a little bit of that, but just random stuff. A lot of the guys would cut out part of the workouts and not do them because I would do the entire thing and always be like one of the last ones in there because, you know, I wanted to do the full workout. But there's no reward or care from the coach when you are one of those people that do that. You know, they honestly don't care, which, no, it's fine. You know, being a fat coach like he was, he doesn't really understand health and fitness, so I don't think he really cared about that kind of stuff. But another thing that was quite funny is we would do a lot of arm accessory work. So really light dumbbell stuff, band work. So stuff that was actually like good for your arm to do and stuff I had been doing for years. But everyone would just be required to do it with one arm. And the time, like they wouldn't really give you that much time to do it with both unless you're kind of rushing through them to do both arms. And I don't know who I have to tell that wouldn't understand this, but it is completely idiotic to only train one arm when you're doing any sort of movement because you develop imbalances and you increase your chances of injury anytime you have an imbalance. And as a pitcher, you are inherently imbalanced. So one of the great things that you could do with all of this band work and accessory work you do is to work on those imbalances. Because, like, how can you not become imbalanced throwing a baseball when you push off with only one leg, you throw with only one arm, and then the coaches are so stupid that they just say, yeah, let's just do band work. You just got to do your right arm. Like, so you just want everyone to just blow their arm up because that's just how that's how you get injured. That's how you have arm pain. And I think that's one of the radical things. Like, it was just like stuff like that. You're like, you can't really be that serious. We would long toss it to be a controlled distance when, like, that was idiotic when there's no research to support that you're limiting your long distance tossing is any sort of beneficial thing. When really, even now thinking about that, like, there's so much benefit of trying to throw the ball as hard as you can in order to get a stronger arm to develop those muscles. Like, controlling the distance is just so stupid. But, you know, he would do stuff like that and train, you know, you train one side, one arm and doing all your accessory movements. So it's just idiotic stuff like that, being at the bottom rung, working extremely hard. I still worked really hard. I did stuff outside of practice and, you know, all of that stuff. And it's not that I deserve to be rewarded for it, but there is no benefit of doing that other than that my knee started to have frayed cartilage. And after, you know, in the sophomore year, when it was starting to get bad, I could have technically redshirted, but, like, why would I redshirt when I didn't want to be on the team? And I remember calling my parents and asking about quitting the team because I had gone to that school solely to play baseball. I would have just went to Akron University if I was just going just purely for school, but I was worried because I liked going to the school that my parents would want me to transfer, but they were cool with me staying, which is really good because I think I got a lot of benefit out of going to a small school with smaller classes, just my personality being harder to open up to others and stuff like that. But when I quit, it was such a relief. I didn't know what to do. I continued to train for throwing because I just liked to train. And that's what I kind of realized in the years after that was I never really liked baseball or basketball in the sense of, like, I want to play a game. I want to be on a team. I like training for them. I like going to the park and shooting for hours and hours, going to the gym and shooting for hours and hours, coming up with, I'm going to shoot from this spot for this many times and see my percentage and go and do this many throws, do these weighted ball throws, do this training. Like, I like training to get the effect and trying to improve. And that's what I kind of realized that I wish I would have understood when I was younger is that, well, I guess I wish I would have been introduced to weightlifting when I was younger because it totally fits my personality of what I just like to do naturally of just training and getting stronger and, like, working towards an objective goal. Because when you're working towards a team goal, there is benefits to that, and I am glad in the sense that like I played team sports because I was very introverted, so it was very important for me to do socially. But being the kind of personality that I am, where I like to train and like be self-driven and work towards goals where I'm increasing things that I'm doing, you do that a ton through lifting. That's one of the reasons I was so consistent at it. Is like, all right, I did 3 sets of 10 at this weight. I'm going to add 5 pounds and try to do throughout. I did 3 sets of 10 again. I'm getting better. I've improved. And there's nothing, there's no subjectivity. There's no coach's bias. Like, if you got stronger, you got stronger. If you got better, you got better. And that I really like, and I still like, and I think it's one of the most beneficial things of lifting. It's all on you. If you get better, it's on you. If you don't, it's on you. And there's obviously extenuating factors that cause stuff like that to be good or bad. But well, this is a really long video, so I do apologize if you're listening to this whole thing, Kevin. So you're getting the real deal of my rants and ravings about all the high school and college beginnings. I'll save the second half of college for another video, because this is already 16 minutes, so I don't want it to be too much longer. But I started, after I quit baseball, just started lifting and still trained throwing for a while. And I remember one day I was like, why am I training throwing? Like, I don't even want to play competitive baseball. And then I pretty much stopped entirely cold turkey one day and just never really threw ever. Like, it's actually kind of, I didn't throw at all until I coached baseball when I was a teacher for that year. And then because I was coaching, I was throwing with some of the guys, and I didn't ever want to get back into it competitively, but just enjoyed throwing because I was so much stronger. I was throwing so much faster. I don't know how much faster, but I was feeling like I was able to get a lot more on the ball and just use my body a lot more effectively, which is really odd, but it was a really cool feeling. Just to realize that if I had just focused on just strength training when I was younger, I probably would have just got better at throwing instead of just like over-analyzing my technical models of throwing. But anywho, once I quit throwing, started just lifting weights, and eventually found powerlifting. I actually have no idea how I found powerlifting. It might have just been friends at the gym, but I had some friends that were squatting. Like, my only friend Seth was doing some squats and pulls and stuff, and I don't know, I found it out from somewhere, maybe through like YouTube fitness. I remember watching stuff like Max Tuning and Barbell Brigade back in the day, and finding some of that, so you kind of see what powerlifting is, and just kind of dabbling in them. But I think this is a good point to stop, because this was kind of the point, I believe it was after baseball, I'm almost positive, to where I did my first snatch and was kind of introduced to like cleans and stuff. Definitely when I started to do cleans and power cleans, I was definitely after my baseball time, which is hilarious because power cleans have been great for baseball, but idiots can't be made to think. So I will end this one here. I do apologize if anyone made it this far. Hopefully none of you are too bored with it being this long. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But like I said, end this one here. The next one I'll talk about kind of how I got into weightlifting specifically, and how I started to dabble in it, and how it started to grow on me. Once again, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Peace.